Good evening, America, and welcome to the 5-Minute News Hour. I may be an April Fool, but at least I'm not a May dickhead. Good evening, America. Welcome to the 5-Minute News Hour. I'm Brian Gartland. For the last 11 days, Al-Qaeda's main web forums have been down, and while no hacker or hacking group has taken credit, web experts believe it to be the work of cyber terrorists, or cyber counter-terrorists really, depending on how you look at it. In an exclusive to the 5-Minute News Hour, sources tell me the site will remain down as long as community remains on the air, as per the backroom agreement. And while nerds everywhere remain silent as to the identity of the hackers, I have a strong suspicion it was carried out by the elite squad Skyrim Team 6. And in campaign news, Mitt Romney was introduced to a cheering crowd Sunday by Republican Representatives Paul Ryan and Ron Johnson, only to find himself in the middle of a big old empty room. It was part of an April Fool's joke. Romney said afterward he knew it was a prank because the two idiots mistakenly used audio of a crowd cheering enthusiastically. The former Massachusetts governor fancies himself a prankster and says he will forgive and remember the joke, which is the same thing he said to the family dog years ago after that prank he left on the living room carpet. Rick Santorum also made news on Sunday. While campaigning in Wisconsin, asked by a member of the crowd to define his stance on homosexuality, Santorum responded by saying that while the Catholic Church believes that the lifestyle is a sin and a choice, he believes that they are all part of God's flock, and most importantly, all Americans, whose rights are defended by the Constitution and the blood of the hundreds and thousands of Americans who have died to protect it. Before adding, I'm just kidding. April Fools. I hate gay people almost as much as I hate sweaters on my arms. Ugh, the worst. For Sports Night, we go to our special men's basketball correspondent, Zach Finch. Zach?
Evening, everybody. It all ends here tonight. The heavily favored Kentucky Wildcats take on the Kansas Jayhawks, who are an odd underdog this season. They play at 9:23 p.m. tonight on CBS. This has been deemed over the past couple of days a game for everyone. And it is about time sports fans get a game for sports' sake. This game is about the best coaches, with John Calipari, the slick used car salesman of college hoops, who's the forerunner of the one-and-done roster-building strategy, and then there's the more traditional Naismith Coach of the Year, Bill Self for Kansas, who focuses more on building a team rather than a roster. Besides the fact that these are the two most storied programs in college basketball history, Kentucky having the most wins in the sport history with 2,089, and Kansas having the second most with 2,070, fans also get to watch top athletes perform, with Player of the Year Anthony Davis for the Kentucky Wildcats, and then the unanimous first-team All-American Thomas Robinson for the Jayhawks. Yes, this game promises to deliver exactly what you hope to see from it. And isn't it nice that we finally get a game that is actually about the sport itself, as opposed to who is paying who to kill whom, and which creepy old man is molesting which kid, or, oh man, I will not shoot a basketball for any less than $1 million a year, so you better cut the season in half and figure out who's going to pay my ass. So, if you want to watch one game this year without feeling a little sleazy by doing so, watch the Men's College Basketball Championship tonight on CBS. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Zach. That was some great reporting. Do you have any thoughts on what the final score might be, or a prediction for tonight?
Oh, Kansas Jayhawks, bitch! Rock Chalk Jayhawks! #1! #1!
Thank you, Zach. Your burrito.
I love you.
Your burrito will be in the mail. And finally tonight, our last story is a segment I like to call Today. Back then. April 2nd is a very special day here in Richmond, Virginia. In 1865, Jefferson Davis and the rest of the Confederate government fled their capital city for Danville, Virginia, named on the trip for the one guy waiting there, Dan. On the way out, retreating Confederates torched the city, so it would be of no use to Ulysses Grant's approaching Army of the Potomac. His name wasn't really Sam. Someone at West Point just gave him that name and he refused to correct him. Interesting! The flames spread so quickly throughout the city that the few remaining residents thought a plague had broken out. A few years later, Richmond celebrated this by building a giant statue to Davis on one of its main roads. And while the city has changed in many important ways since 1865, there are still parts of Richmond and parts of the country all over, north and south, above or below the Mason-Dixon line, where the war for freedom of all Americans still wages today. Thousands of commemorative flames are expected to be set in bowls across the city tonight. For all of me here at the 5-Minute News Hour, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Have a good night and a great night. God damn it! Stop mowing! I'm doing the news in here!